The significance of monitoring and measuring progress toward goal attainment has a couple of components that I would like to mention here. First, it's important to establish that goals are a very important part of social work. Setting goals with clients, according to Hepworth and his co authors, are by their nature intended to facilitate change. The second thing I'd like to mention is that monitoring and measuring the progress toward these goals is crucial. How else would a social worker gauge if the client is even making progress, or if there is progress being made, to what extent? Hepworth and Associates explain it like this on pages 342 and 343 in the Direct Social Work Practice textbook. Once goals have been developed, agreed upon, and explicitly defined, jointly deciding with the client how progress is to be tracked and recorded is the next logical step. Measurement involves the precise definition of the problem and what is to be changed, and it clarifies the observations to be made that indicate progress toward the identified goal. Monitoring and evaluation are planned, ongoing processes that occur at various stages. Irrespective of the frequency of the review, it should be done on a regular basis to avoid surprises. In other words, an ongoing review of the status of goals and related tasks or action steps is necessary in order to determine their effectiveness relative to changing the target concern. In this way, both you, the social worker, and the clients are informed about their progress or the lack thereof. Now, it's only through monitoring and measuring goals are social workers and clients able to assess if they're making progress or not toward their set goals. In the end, in the very end, the big picture is to achieve those goals. We are to help our clients achieve those goals. So, effective tracking of progress must be implemented in order to determine if the action steps are appropriate or if the client's plan needs to be revisited and modified accordingly. Now, I'm going to mention three considerations when planning for the evaluation of goal attainment, and they're listed right in a row in the Knoyer textbook. The first is the goodness of fit. According to Barry Knoyer in the Social Work Skills textbook, workbook, the goodness of fit means the fit between the measurement tools or procedures and clients' capacities and resources. He continues by writing, just start with the presumption that you can locate or create some reasonable and relevant form of evaluation. Easy enough. Now, he moves on to a whole different thought. And again, I'm using it because this is a key consideration when you're planning for the evaluation of goal attainment. Okay, and I quote from Knoyer, in many practice contexts, failure to evaluate progress could constitute negligence and perhaps malpractice. Now, that definitely motivates me to consider effective planning for the evaluation of goal attainment. And I'll mention a third thing, and I'm labeling it number 3. Okay, this is also a key consideration when planning, and that key consideration is how to measure progress toward goal achievement. There are several measurement systems and tools suggested in both of the textbooks. However, I'm going to point out one from the Knoyer text. According to him, goal attainment scaling, or GAS, is particularly well suited to social work practice because the dimensions for measurement are not predetermined, as is the case with standardized tests and questionnaires. In GAS, the dimensions for assessment evolve from the goals negotiated by you and by the client. Therefore, they are specific to each unique client system, focal issue, and goal. Now, in reading through the details of GAS, it does fit as a great model to use to set up evaluation planning for social workers. The social worker and client work together to rank the importance of each of the goals. Predictions of outcomes can be used as markers to evaluate progression toward those goals. Now, all of that fits into appropriate guidelines that social workers are advised to follow. So, in essence, when planning for the evaluation of goal attainment, social workers must consider the goodness of fit. They must determine what system they will use to monitor progress toward a goal. And they have to remember that failure to evaluate progress could constitute negligence. Now, I'm going to conclude by referencing part of Chapter 1 in a primer on practice evaluation, how to participate in the process of evidence-based practice. The language the text uses is slightly different from the textbooks, but it's very clear and it definitely meshes with what we've already talked about. So, quote, what constitutes social work practice differs greatly across the spectrum from micro to meso to macro. One thing is the same across all of these settings, though. After conducting a careful assessment, all social workers should structure their intervention plans by co-creating strength-based goals and measurable objectives with their clients. Goals and objectives belong together, but they are not the same things. Think of goals as a broad wish area, whereas objectives are trackable elements that create the larger goal. As part of this targeting or goal setting process, we move from a vague idea to an operational or working definition that becomes a goal. From there, we split the goal out into measurable objectives. As we work on this process with our client, we want to lead with what the client presents as most important. It's worth saying that observing data over time in a structured and organized way can be extremely useful to a social worker in client-related decision-making. Remember, unless you can measure a problem, you cannot effectively evaluate how well you are resolving it.